Like Gang Sexy. Told y'all I had something World War II on my mind that I wanted to play something. But instead of setting up some monster, which this is, it's not a monster. A lot of counters on that map though. We're playing Kesselschlacht from Against the Odds. This one was done in 2005. I've also got Wintergewitter over there that I might get around to, I don't know. But we set this thing up last night and thought we'd go through the rules. I finished setting it up this morning. Set it up last night. Got the rules online from ATO so I could do some highlighting. Set out on my computer and read them and highlighted what I thought was important. Trying to find out what the strange rules were in this thing here. Air combat's pretty interesting. You have kind of more set. This is more set up for 2-player, but it's. Let me turn that light off so I can see what's going on here. More set up for 2-player, but and each player would have a section chart where they would secretly assign their aircraft. So I guess you'd have to have blind screens to do that. What I'm doing is whoever's got the initiative, he'll be able to do free bombing or free supply runs. Unfortunately for me, on the first turn, the Soviets drew the initiative for the air, so the Germans didn't get to do any uncontested air missions, but the Soviets did. And then what you do is you set your aircraft up in the assignment phase. You set them up in here on the chart where you want to put your aircraft, and I don't think there's any limits to what you can put in a zone. But you've got 3 different types. You've got fighters, fighter bombers, and then you got transports for the Germans. The Germans have transports. And then you have straight bombers, which the Russians actually have more planes, I think, in this one than the Germans do. All right. And then the notes, it says that the key to the German success in this is their aircraft, because they need them to help get the Germans out of this pocket there. Like I say, the game's called Kesselschlacht, but it's in Ukraine in 1944. So you've got the 1st Panzer Army, which is pretty much encircled here by the Soviets. And I mean, you got Soviets way out here to the west, okay? And the basic objective of this is to extract 1st Panzer Army west of the Seret River here. All right? That's going to be a task. You've got activation rules in this game where the Soviets can activate 1 army and 5 corps, or 4 corps, so 5 total groupings. And you roll on a table to get those activations, okay? You have some fairly standard supply rules, except for 1st Panzer Army, which is all of this stuff in here. They have fuel and ammo, all right, chits for each of the headquarters, the Corps headquarters in there and the Army headquarters in there. And you fly those things in through missions. They somewhere along the line, once they break out, they can actually hit the supply sources that the Germans have, if they can access to them by using roads to get to them and stuff. But they also have activations too. Germans are a little bit different. I haven't gotten to a German phase yet, so I'm not going to try to explain how they activate. But like I say, your base function is you want to extract 1st Panzer Army back across this river. Because you'll notice by looking at this map, all this red, all right, and these olive colors, this is all Soviet. The blue and the black are the Germans. Well, you notice most of the blue and the black's right here. You got these white units up here and these Romanians down here. That's it. And there's reinforcements that come in for the Germans, which I haven't looked at the track. You know how I am. I won't do that. I'll wait and I'll check it on each turn. So the first turn, this is a 10-turn scenario, starts with heavy snow right off the bat. So guess what? The Germans cannot fly supply missions into the pocket there, into the bubble. So, but who was the designer of this one here? Let's see. This was Perry Moore was the designer. Development was Warren Kingsley and Steve Rawling. Graphics was Craig Grando. Rick Barber did the map research on this one. All right. And this one was, like I say, this was Against the Odds. Not new, but not old. Map's it's different. When I look at this, it reminds me of one of the early lock and load games, like the Poland game they had. It's kind of what this map reminds me of. Your air sectors not only marked on those cards, but they're also marked on the map here so that you can see what targets you can hit. You can blow up bridges. We attempted to blow up this. The Germans attempted to blow up this bridge right here, but that's failed because you got to roll like a 1 to do it. Okay. Haven't gotten any ground combat yet. I just started finished the air phase, and during the air phase, when you reveal the aircraft in the sections, if you have fighters and fighter bombers in the same sections, they're going to do air combat. All right, drive somebody out of there. Somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose. Now, the air combat is simultaneous, so you might get where both forces have to abort. All right. Well, if you've got transports, which the Germans have, or you've got bombers that are not flying, that are bombers that are in the same zone with fighters, the fighters will do the air combat, and should your side win, or let's say both sides get aborted, well, the bombers are going to stay in there and they'll be able to execute their bombing missions, okay? Transport units will be able to do their supply missions, their drops, okay? Or they'll be able to land and drop, give supplies. Supplies get assigned to certain headquarters. Once they're assigned to certain headquarters for the Germans, you can't send them out to different units. They have to stay with that formation. They get used by that formation. And believe me, it costs a lot of supplies to keep the Germans moving and firing. And I know this, and I haven't even got to that phase yet. Now, should one side have to abort their missions, the fighters that are remaining from the other team, from the opposing player, they'll get to be able to do aerial combat on any transports or any bombers that are left in the area. Didn't have that happen. Both my sides got chased out on all the engagement. I mean, I had about 7 or 8 sections over there where I had aircraft in. Now, how am I doing this since I can't do this solo and blind? What I'm doing is I'm alternating. So the Soviets got the initiative. I let them decide, pick which zone first they want to put aircraft in. I put all the chits, the aircraft chits, into a cup for both sides. Roll a dice. Whatever the number is, I reach in and I grab that many chits. If it happens to be, if I roll a 4 and I pull out 4 chits and 3 of them are German and 1's Russian, well, then that's the way it goes, okay? And like I say, when you talk about air missions during, real engagements, it could be random anyhow, because they're not going to necessarily know that they need to fly to this area. They could be just, you got your planners back there could be thinking, all right, we think the Germans are going to form a big attack here at Gordok, so let's fly into that zone. Let's get some air cover into that zone. They may not know that, or maybe pilots fly to the wrong location. I've said that for years playing these games. So since you really can't simulate the blind part of using those 2 charts over there, I do it by a dice system. And sometimes you got to get pretty creative, all right? All right, so there you go. That's Kesselschlacht from Against the Odds. All right, we're just getting started. We're not done the ground movement yet. We do have the activated Russians, but they have some priorities for activation. The 38th and I think it's the 40th Army, they have priorities, so you got to try to activate. There's a chart for all the stuff. One of them first. Then the 5th Guards tank, which I'm lucky because they're not in this scenario. They're sitting off the map over here. And then whichever one of those armies activates, all right, then you start go down to your regular units and you can start activating the remaining numbers, which if you get one army activated, then you got 4 corps you need to activate, okay? And that's how that works. So they've got theirs activated. As a matter of fact, they got them spread out. The ones that got activated are spread out because of bad dice rolls. And your dice roll on the chart is affected by the distance you are from a supply. And doesn't matter what the weather is on a road, it's a half movement point. And then you have a chart where you roll against the distance to see whether they get activated or not, okay? Haven't got to the Germans yet, so I don't know, or the Axis formations yet, so I don't know what their activations are going to be. And I need to reroute that. Like I said, I'm like anybody else. If you read through the rules fast one time, you're going to have to come back while you're playing to sort of secure yourself with those rules. All right, so Kesselschlacht, Ukraine, spring 1944, Against the Odds game. Let's get this up so you can see what I got going on here. And we are still doing Gettysburg 77. All right, talk to y'all soon.